Hey everyone, it's Sonnet Seth with the Seth Brothers Team, and I'm here today to talk about the National Association of Realtors commission lawsuit. There's been a lot of talk about this lawsuit over the last couple of weeks, so I'm here today to explain what it is, how it impacts our industry in terms of rule changes, what some myths are surrounding this lawsuit, and my take on this lawsuit moving forward. So to get started, it's important to understand what exactly is this commission lawsuit that came about over the last 12 months. In case you are not aware, home sellers filed a class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors, accusing them of price fixing and a realtor conspiracy. A judgment was entered against the National Association of Realtors of $1.8 billion, and a settlement was reached 6 months ago, which then resulted in some rule changes. So here are some of the key changes that took effect as of August the 17th. Number one, written buyer representation agreements are now required to be on file in order for a real estate professional to show prospective buyers homes. Compensation for the agent's work should be discussed at that time as well. Number two, the offer of buyer agent compensation is no longer displayed in HAR or the MLS. Compensation should be discussed with the agent directly. Number three, compensation has and always will be negotiable and should be discussed by each party with their respective agents. And number four, there's now a new field in HAR in the MLS which talks about seller contributions, and sellers can choose to contribute towards buyers' closing costs or the buyer agency fee. With all these new rules in place due to this settlement, there's a lot of confusion in the industry on how it's going to affect real estate professionals as well as buyers and sellers. And I'm here today to talk about some of these myths and make sure all the questions are answered. First myth, the NAR settlement will force real estate agents to reduce their fees. That is a myth. Fees are not based on the settlement. As has always been the case, real estate fees are negotiable, and there's a wide range of fees and services offered in the market. Typically, a real estate agent charges fees based on their market knowledge, expertise, and the value that they bring to the transaction, just like any other service provider, so the settlement does not have effect on that. Second myth, sellers can no longer pay compensation to the buyer's agent. That is incorrect. They can choose to do so. Commissions are always negotiable, always have been. Now we're just having more upfront conversations about how they want to compensate their agent and whether or not they want to offer compensation to the buyer's agent and or buyer's closing costs. Myth number three, the settlement will make homeownership more affordable. This is a myth. Homeownership and home prices is really based on supply and demand, interest rates, and what's happening in the economy. So while there might be a case by case where fees might affect the takeaway in a transaction, the overall market will be impacted mainly by interest rates and what's happening in the economy, as opposed to this NAR settlement. Myth number four, the NAR settlement forces buyers to find homes on their own. Again, buyers can still engage the services of a real estate professional. You just need to have a buyer representation agreement, which outlines what services the agent is providing and what the compensation will be in the transaction. Myth number five, the NAR settlement eliminates the needs for written agreements with buyers and sellers. This is actually the opposite. Listing agreements were always required when agreeing to market a home for sale for a seller. Now, the same requirement is there for buyers when you're representing them to help them purchase in a real estate transaction. Myth number six, sellers are stuck paying all the fees. This is not the case, as sellers have options. Sellers can choose to compensate their agent only. They can choose to offer compensation to the buyer's agent in the transaction. They can choose to offer a contribution to buyer's closing costs in a transaction. They have options. It's best to discuss all these options with the real estate professional to understand what is the best option for that particular transaction. So how do I feel about this whole NAR commission lawsuit? Well, to be honest, I have mixed feelings. It's been well documented that the attorneys who filed this class action lawsuit have a history of suing large organizations and pharmaceutical companies, in turn winning big settlements for the clients and collecting large contingency fees. So it seems that money was a big driving factor from the attorney's side to file this class action lawsuit as opposed to making the transaction better for buyers and sellers. It also seems a little disingenuous to me that attorneys are arguing that real estate brokerage fees are harming consumers so much, and then they turn around and collect a 33% contingency fee on hundreds of millions of dollars. Doesn't seem to make sense to me, but it is what it is, and you can only control what you can control. But what I am excited about is I feel the bottom line is there will be more transparency in our industry and in real estate transactions. I'm all about educating consumers, educating buyers, sellers, whoever it may be, on how the process works and the value that we can bring to a transaction. As a matter of fact, last couple of weeks, I've had many conversations about this commission lawsuit, explaining how everything is working, and we're still moving forward with clients, business as usual, and they're appreciating the more upfront conversations we are having with them. So if this is making that part better, I am all for it, and I feel that business will operate as usual as long as you can articulate the value you bring to a transaction as a real estate professional. If you have any questions about this whole commission lawsuit, how it works, how it impacts you, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to help.